we chose Vision 2, and this is our presentation.
Okay, let's start with color blindness. Color blindness is caused by the defective cones in the retina of the eye. It can be split into three types: monochrome color blindness, where a person has either no cones or defective cones and are left to see only in gray; red-green color blindness, either the red or green cones don't work, leaving them to see only in blues, grays, and yellows; and blue-yellow color blindness, where the blue or yellow cones don't work and leave them to see only in reds, greens, and grays. Hue refers to the aspect of color that's determined by the wavelength of light, the way humans see and categorize colors. Brightness is determined by the amplitude of the photon wave. The higher the wave, the brighter light seems. The lower the wave, the more dim light appears. A fun fact about this is the color green symbolizes health, new beginnings, and wealth. Stores use the color green in their logos and advertisements to instill a feeling of relaxation and promote environmental issues. The electromagnetic spectrum is the range of all possible electromagnetic radiation. The spectrum of an object is the range of electromagnetic radiation that it emits, reflects, or transmits. The human eye can only see visible light. Lights like radio, infrared, ultraviolet, X-ray, and gamma ray are invisible to the naked eye. Red, green, and yellow-blue are so-called forbidden colors. The light frequencies of these colors cancel out each other, so they're essentially impossible to see simultaneously. That is it.
So, types of electromagnetic radiation. The first one is radio waves. Radio waves are used to broadcast radio and television. The second one is microwaves, which is used in cooking, radar, telephone, and other signals. So basically like our electronic devices. Third one is infrared, which is like transmits heat from the sun, fires, and radiators. Next is the visible light, which is what we can see, and it makes things able to be seen. Next is ultraviolet, which is absorbed by the skin, used in fluorescent tubes, and if too much of it, can cause skin cancer. X-rays are used to view inside of bodies and objects. And lastly, gamma rays, which is used in medicine for killing cancer cells, and it can be very dangerous.
Okay, so trichromats are organisms that have three different cones in their eyes, and they're used to see color. So they have green, red, and blue cones. A good way to remember this is that it starts with tri, which means three, so you can remember how many cones they have. Monochromats are organisms with no color vision, so basically they're just colorblind. Subtractive color mixing is the process of making a new color by removing the wavelengths from the light that already has a ton of different wavelengths. An example of these colors are cyan, yellow, magenta, and black. So cats and dogs each have two different cones in their eyes. Dogs' eyes are sensitive to blue light, meaning they can see blue and yellow, and cats are sensitive to green light, allowing them to see blue and green. Mantis shrimps are small, colorful crustaceans that have 16 cones in their eyes, which doesn't let them see more color, but it allows them to recognize colors in a different way than us. Now we're going to talk about the color theories. There are two color theories, the trichromatic theory and the opponent process theory. The trichromatic theory is essentially the idea that there are three types of cones representing three colors. The three main colors are red, green, and blue. The theory essentially says that we see all these different types of colors, and they're made by those three main colors mixing. So it's essentially saying that the colors are mixed, and that if you mix the colors, you can create all of the colors that we see. The opponent process theory suggests that the way humans perceive colors is controlled by three opposing systems. We need four unique colors to characterize perception of color: blue, yellow, red, and green. According to this theory, there are three opposing channels in our vision. They are blue versus yellow, red versus green, and black versus white. We perceive a hue based on the two colors at a time, but we can only detect one of the opposing colors at a time. The opponent process theory proposes that one member of the color pair suppresses the other color. For example, we do see yellowish greens and reddish yellows, but we never see reddish greens or yellowish blue hues. So, I'm going to compare and contrast the two theories now. Both theories believe that there are 3 or 4 main colors, which include red, green, and blue, correlating with the 3 types of cones in our eyes. These two theories differ due to the fact that one believes that the 3 colors combine to create all the colors we see, while the other believes in color pairs and one color suppressing the other. And then there are 3 main aspects of color. These include hue, saturation, and brightness. The 3 different aspects of color are similar due to the fact that they affect the way we as humans perceive color. They are different though because hue is the experience that we describe with color names, such as like yellow, pink, red, stuff like that. They are different though because saturation describes the intensity of the hue experience, ranging from hueless to deep saturation, like light colors, pastels versus deep dark colors. And then brightness allows us to order colors from dark to light.
Okay, so dichromates, which is like di means two, it has the ability to match any color they see with a mixture of no more than 2 pure spectral lights. It has 2 types of functioning color receptors called cone cells in the eyes. So dichromates, people with dichromates are unable to distinguish between red and green. So another vocab is saturation. Saturation is the degree of richness, intensity, purity, or greenness. An example is like cadmium orange, which is a high saturation color. Highly saturated red would have red wavelength, whilst less saturated red might have a mix of wavelengths. So think of this as like when you're editing pictures, it's like more saturated. So we see things when it enters our eyes. The pupils change size to let more light in when it's dark or less light in when it's bright. And this is important because too much light can cause damage to our eyes, but too little can also cause nearsightedness. Not all objects give off light, and so we see some objects because light reflects on their surfaces and into our eyes. The process of the stimuli light being processed is that it passes through the cornea first. Then some of the light enters through an opening called the pupil. The iris then controls how much light the pupil let in, and the light passes through the lens, and the lens work together with the cornea to focus light correctly on the retina. When it hits the retina, photoreceptors turn the light into electrical signals. Then these signals go through the optic nerve to our brain and finally turns these signals into images that we see. Okay, so fun facts. Primary colors are the most basic colors out there. Colorblind people have better night vision. For most people, the color yellow actually causes dizziness. Cats and dogs can see as many colors as human beings, but they do have a better, wider field of vision, and they even have a better night vision. Some snakes use thermal sensing to see, and that since women have 2 X chromosomes, the 2 copies of those genes help women perceive the red-orange spectrum better than men. Chromophobia, also known as chromatophobia, is an ongoing and irrational fear of colors that can have a negative impact on daily activities, and that red is the first color a baby sees. So in conclusion, color blindness results when either one photo pigment is missing or 2 happens to be the same. The types of color blindness are red, green, blue, yellow, and the complete color blindness, which is the rarest. color vision is the ability to discriminate stimuli based on wavelengths of light. The cones recognize these lights based on their wavelengths. Information regarding the pigments inside these cones are sent through the optic nerve, and then our brain and eye work together to translate light into color or images. The occipital lobe is responsible mainly for processing and interpreting the visuals we see, like shape, color, and even location of an object. In producing sight, the eyes capture information and send it through the optic nerve, then process it by our occipital lobe. U is almost a term which describes a dimension of color. We readily experience when we look at color or its purest form. It essentially refers to a color having like full saturation, and that lastly, every color can be described in terms of having three main attributes, and those are hue, saturation, and brightness. Thank you so much for listening, and goodbye.